welcome back, my 7th grade advanced class. Let's go and knock this out. I have all the odd ones tonight. First one, pretty easy. Shows here, x plus 13 is greater than or equal to 18. To get rid of positive 13, you need negative 13. Whatever I take away from one side, I'll take away from the other side. Now, x comes down. 13 minus 13 is nothing. Greater than equal sign comes down. 18 minus 13 is 5. So we're going to put a graph here. We're going to put 5 underneath it. We know that x could be equal to 5, so I'm going to put a dot. I'm going to shade in all of the things that are greater than, right? Because this is greater than, it says. X is greater than or equal to 5. Next, we have 2 is greater than or equal to g divided by negative 4. So the opposite of dividing by 4 is to multiply by 4, by negative 4, I should say. Whatever I multiply to one side, I multiply the other. Negative 4 times 2 will be a negative 8. Remember the rule for inequalities: if ever I divide or multiply by a negative number, I have to turn my inequality symbol around, and g comes on down. So negative 8 is less than or equal to g, or g is greater than, right? Negative 8. So here's negative 8. Since it could be equal to, I'm going to put a dot. And since it could be greater than, I'm going to shade in all the lines this way. Let's go to number 5. Number 5 says, fill in the missing values in the ratio table. We got to see what happened from here to here. I could say it's subtract 3, but remember we're going by multiplication and division, right? So in reality, I multiplied 1/2 to 6, right? Half of 6 is 3. So half of 10 will be 5. And over here, what happened? Well, 10 got multiplied by 5, right, to get to 50. So 6 multiplied to 5 will get to 30. And we're off to number 7. Write an inequality model by algebra tile, modeled by algebra tiles, and solve the inequality using algebra tiles. Check your answer using properties of equality. This to me looks like 2 times a number, right? I don't know what that number is. It's a positive number though. Now we're adding 4, right? So plus 4 is going to be greater than or equal to negative 6, because there's 6 negative tiles here. Well, now it says to solve it. If I solve it, I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. That gives us 2x is going to be greater than or equal to negative 10. And now I need to divide 2 away. Whatever I divide from one side, I do the other. Now x is going to be greater than or equal to negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. Did it ever say to graph? Write an inequality modeled by the algebra tiles and solve the inequality using graph. Check your, nope, never says to graph it. So I'm good with number 7 being x is greater than or equal to negative 5. Number 9's next. Solve 2-step inequalities. I'm going to start going through these pretty quick, try to keep up. I know that I have to do PEMDAS backwards, since this is multiplication, this is subtraction. Subtraction will come first. That means I'm going to do the opposite, which is adding 5. Then I have to add 5 to this side. Well, 3 plus 5 is 8. And now I have 8 is bigger than 8y. Well, I have to divide 8 away from 8y. Whatever I divide from one side, I divide from the other. And now I have 8 over 8, which is y, right? 1. So that gives me 1y left over. I didn't divide or multiply by a negative number. So 8 divided by 8 is 1. Okay? So it does say to graph it. So in this case, I'm going to make a graph. I'm going to put a 1 and put a circle here, not a dot, because it does not equal it. And then, since y is smaller than it, I'm going to point to all the numbers that are smaller. All right, and we got 11 over here. Once again, 8 minus 4 over 3h. Don't think that that means that we're doing subtraction on this. This is a multiplication problem. This here is a positive 8, so we got to subtract 8 from it. Whatever I do to one side, I do the other. And now I have negative 6 is greater than negative 4 over 3 h. Uh, to get negative 4 over 3 away from h, I'll have to multiply by the inverse, which is negative 3 over 4. All right, that's going to make h come down by itself. But remember, whatever I multiply to one side, I have to multiply to the other side. Well, I know that 3 times 6 is 18. So this is going to be a negative times a negative is a positive. This will be 18 over 4. Remember, I multiplied by a negative number, so I have to turn my symbol around. I know 18 over 4 can be reduced. It can be turned to 4 and 2/4, which is also equal to 4 and 1/2. So 4 and 1/2 is less than h. Now that I'm going to make my graph here, I realize I'm going to put 4 and 1/2 down here. It does not equal 4 and 1/2, right? So it's going to be an open circle. And since h is bigger than 4 and 1/2, we're going to shade this to all of the numbers bigger. Okay. Next is number 13. Got decimals here. Ooh, scary decimals. Combine the like terms. These don't have h's with them. So I'm going to add 5.3. Now I got negative 1.2h is greater than or equal to, looks like 7.2. Now that I know this, I would have to divide negative 1.2 away, which means I will divide negative 1.2 from this side. I divided by a negative number, so that's going to turn my symbol around the other direction. And now I have h all by itself. Looks like it's smaller or equal to, well, 7.2 divided by negative 1.2 will give me a negative 6. So now I'm ready to make my number line. I'll put negative 6 down here. I'll put a dot because it can't include negative since it could be equal to it. Since h is smaller, that's going to give me all of the numbers that are less. I'm going to go on down to number 15 now. We have to distribute properties. 5 times g will be 5g. 5 times 4 will be 20. That's got to be greater than 15. Let's subtract 20 from both sides. Remember, I'm doing this first because I want to get my letter by itself, so I'm combining my numbers. To do that, I have to get rid of it on this side and do the same thing to this side. This is going to give me a negative 5 is less than 5g. I'm going to divide by 5. That's a positive number, so my symbol is going to stay the same direction, which means I have to divide by 5 over here. Negative 5 divided by 5 is going to give us a negative 1. With g equaling, or g being greater than negative 1, I will put a negative 1 here. I'll put a circle since it doesn't include it. And since negative 1 is smaller, because g is greater, I'm going to have my arrow pointing to all the numbers that are greater. Number 17, once again, we're distributing properties. The negative 8 comes down. This 2/5 gets multiplied to k, so this would be 2/5 k. And this 2/5 gets multiplied, this negative 2. That's going to give us a negative 4 over 5. Now I have to get this number. And I know it looks like a fraction, but it's still a number, right? There's no k underneath, after it. So that means I have to add 4/5 to this side to get rid of it. Whatever I add to one side, I'll add to another. And I have -8 plus 4/5. Well, that's going to leave us with a -7 1/5 is going to be less than or equal to 2/5k. Now I'm going to multiply this side by 2/5. Oh, sorry, I take that back. I'm going to multiply it by the inverse, which is 5/2. Whatever I multiply to one side, I multiply to the other side. So I'll multiply this side to 5/2. Okay, I realize that this is going to be a multiplication problem. I need to turn this into an improper fraction in order to know what to multiply. 7 times 5 is 35 plus 1 is 36. This is actually 5/2 times -36/5 is less than or equal to k. Remember, we got 5 here and here, so I can cross them out and put 1s there. And that leaves us -36/2. I'm going to keep doing my work over here. -36/2 is less than or equal to k. Now remember, -36 can be divided by 2. That's going to give us a -18. Now let me double check my work to make sure I didn't have to turn my symbol around. The important part is over here, this was a positive number, so I multiplied by a positive number. There is no negative number being used there. That symbol stays that way. And now when I make my graph, I realize this would be -18. It also includes it as an answer, so I put a dot and not a circle. And since k is bigger, I shade in all the numbers that are bigger than -18. All right, let's go to 19 now. 19 says 7.2 is greater than 0.9 times n plus 8.6. So we're going to take this greater than sign. 0.9 times n would be 0.9n. But what is 0.9 times 8.6? I'm going to do that over here. 8.6 times 9. Excuse me, that's 0.9. 6 times 9 would be 54. 8 times 9 would be 72. 72 plus 5 will be 77. And then we got 1, 2. So this is going to be a 7.74. So plus 7.74. All right, I'm going to have to minus 7.74 to get rid of it. I know since my signs are different, I need to find the difference. That's the answer to a subtraction problem, which means I'll take this big number minus this small number. So I'm going to take 7.74, I'm going to minus 7.2. I'm going to make sure I line up my decimals. That's going to give me a 4 and a 5, and that's it, 0.54. So since, and remember to keep the sign of the bigger numbers, this would be -0.54. greater than 0.9n. Now I have to divide by 0.9 to get rid of that 0.9. Whatever I divide from one side, I divide from another. 54 divided by 9 is 6. So I'm going to check my calculator here. And let's see, 0.54 divided by 0.9. That gives me 0.6. So this would be a negative 0.6. And remember, we divided by a positive number here, not a negative number. So our symbol stays in the same direction, and n is over here. Some people might say, but Mr. Mendes, how about over here? This was a negative number. We didn't divide by a negative number. We divided into a negative number. Okay? So now we're going to have our sign here, or our graph here. We'll put negative 0.6. Since n is smaller, this would be an open circle, and we will shade in all of the numbers that are smaller than 0.6. All right, let's go to number 21 here. Your friend solves the inequality. Is your friend correct? Explain the reasoning. All right, it says x over 3 plus 4 is greater than 6. The next step, it looks like they multiplied by 3 to get rid of it here, and they multiplied 6 by 3. That gave them 18, because 6 times 3 is 18. And then they went ahead and subtracted 4. This is incorrect. Remember, we have to do PEMDAS backwards, which means we should have subtracted the positive 4 away and then did the same thing to the other side. Let's go ahead and work it over here. We got x over 3 plus 4 is greater than 6. So he should have subtracted 2, right? Or sorry, I don't even know why I said 2. Subtracted 4. That gave us x over 3 is greater than 2. Then we would have multiplied by 3. This would give me x. We didn't divide by a negative number, so the symbol stays there. 2 times 3 is 6. So there should be x is less than 6. It doesn't say to go ahead and graph, so I'm going to leave it like that. Number 23, the first jump in a unicycle high jump contest is shown here. The bar is raised to 2 centimeters after each jump. Okay. Solve the inequality. 2n plus 10 is greater than or equal to 26 to find the number of additional jumps needed to meet or exceed the goal of clearing a height of 26 centimeters. So this would be 2n plus 10 is greater than or equal to 26. We do PEMDAS backward first, so we're going to do the addition and subtraction. If we're adding 10, we're going to do the opposite, which is subtracting 10. Whatever I do to one side of this inequality, I do the other. Now 2n is greater than or equal to, looks like 16. And next I'm going to divide 2 away. N comes down by itself. Doesn't have to turn around because we want to divide it by a negative number. 16 over 2 is 8. So n should have been 8. So the correct answer would be 8 additional jumps. All right, let's go to number 25. If I can find this, okay. 25 says solve the inequality, then graph. All right, this just looks like a bunch of more extra stuff. 3d minus 7d is going to be a negative 4d. Remember, I'm combining like terms on each side first. Plus 2.8 is less than, these two are numbers. Remember, this is a whole number here, 27 minus, remember, when the signs are different, I find the difference. Take the big number minus the small number and keep the sign of the big number. So this is going to be a negative number. This would have been 0 here. So I know I'm going to have to borrow one. That'll make it a 2. When I borrowed one, this was a 6, so that makes this a 1. And this would have been a 2. So negative 21.2. All right. Now we're going to subtract 2.8 from this side, which means I will subtract 2.8 from this side. Negative 4d is left over here by itself. And now I have to add these two negative numbers. Remember, when my signs are the same, I find the sum. So I'll have to put a 0 over here. Oh, actually, I won't. I'll take that back. Because these are both in the 10th range. So this would be 0, 10, carry the 1. 2 plus 1 plus 1 make 4. And then 2. So this is going to be 24. Okay? And it'll be a negative 24. I don't need to put 0.0 there, so I'm going to get rid of that. Let's see. Well, next I have to divide negative 4 away. Whatever I divide from one side, I divide from the other. A negative divided by negative is a positive. And 24 divided by 4 is 6. It's a positive 6. Since I divided by a negative number, I'm going to turn my symbol in the other direction. It did say to graph, so when I graph this, I put 6 down here. I put an open circle because it doesn't have to equal it. And then it says d is greater than 6. All right, let's go to number 27. Contestant in a weight loss competition must lose an average of at least 8 pounds per month during a 5-month period. Based on the progress report, how many pounds must the contestant lose in the 5th month to meet the goal? All right, remember, at least 8 pounds per month over 5 periods. 1, 2, 3, 4 periods are here. So they're looking over here as to what's going to be in the 5th period. Remember, the average was 8, right? 8 pounds they wanted to lose. So 8 times 5, I almost used baby math, didn't I? 8.8 times 5 equals 40. So there should be a 40-pound difference, right? Well, actually, this is the pounds lost. So when I get here, I should get to 40, right? So let's look at this really carefully. We got 12 and 8, that makes 20. 20 and 9 make 29. And then plus 5 more, that's going to be 34. So far we have 34. Tells me that we're going to have to lose, well, 40 minus 34 makes 6. So that tells me we'll need 6 more pounds here in month 5. All right. Let's see. Let's go ahead and move down to number 29. It says here the zoo does not have room to add any more tigers to its enclosure. According to the regulations, the area of an enclosure must increase by 150 square feet for each tiger that is added. The zoo is able to enlarge the 450 square foot enclosure for a total area no greater than 1,000 square feet. Wow, okay. Write and solve an inequality that represents this situation. All right, so when we look at this, we see that we have, according to the regulations, the area of the enclosure must increase by 150 square feet for each tiger that is added. The zoo is able to enlarge a 450 square foot enclosure for a total of an area no greater than 1,000. So no greater than, that means 1,000 has to be the biggest, right? Or it can be less, right? But it can't be any bigger than that. And we're talking 450, they said. It could be enlarged. And it's 150 per tiger. So 150, we'll just put T, plus 450 is going to be less than or equal to 1,000. When I solve this, I'm going to have to minus 450 from both sides. This will give me 150 T is less than or equal to 450, no, 550. Now I have to divide 150 away to get T by itself. Whatever I divide from one side, I divide from the other. Now T could be less than or equal to, let's see here. Well, it's an improper fraction. 550 divided by 150. Let's just do that over here. 550 divided by 150. I know it goes into it 3 times because that would be 450. And I can't add another 150 to that, so that was 3 times. That's going to give me 100 left over, which I would have to go ahead and put 1,000 to, right, in order to keep going. Let's see. Whew, how many times does 500 go into 1,000? I'm going to go with maybe 6. 0 times 6 is 0. 5 times 6 is 30. And that's going to give me a 9, right? Yep, 900. Can't do any more than 6. And then look, I've got 100 left over again. So I'm in the same boat that I was here. It's going to be 6, 6, 6, 6, 6 forever, which means this answer is 3.6 repeating. As a fraction, that equals 3 2/3. All right, so the answer to, let's see, this was the equation, right? And solve an inequality. This was the inequality, and solving it would have been 3 2/3. Now it says describe the possible number of tigers that can be added. Well, 3 2/3. You can't go ahead and get 2/3 of a tiger, so you could add 0 tigers, you could add 1 tiger, you could add 2 tigers, you can even add 3 tigers, right? Explain your reasoning. I think we just did it over here. This is the number that's underneath 3, right? And that's it. Looks like I'm done. The rest of yours to do. I will see you in class for grading.